to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, April 17th, 2023. I am Dave Biddle, flying solo on today's show. A ton to get into with the spring game. Just 2 days in the rearview mirror. We're going to take a look back on that and really spring overall and what it means for the Buckeyes heading into the 2023 season. First of all, I want to start off. I'm glad Brian Hartline's okay. That's scary stuff. Some people have been seriously injured on those type of ATVs. This is actually not even an ATV. What do they call it? A UTV. Boys and their toys, right? I tell you what, if I had his means, I'd probably buy one of those too. So I'm not going to fault him at all. I like stuff like jet skis and stuff. I don't own one because I don't live near the water and I don't have like enough money to be buying those toys. But I get it. But I'm just glad Coach Hartline's okay. That's scary stuff when that news hit that he was involved in that accident. So on his own property, for those that didn't hear, the UTV, him and a friend were hurt. I don't know if it flipped over or what happened exactly, but just glad Coach Hartline's okay. He tweeted last night that he's okay, so that's great news. All right, let's get to it. All right, let's start right at the top with Kyle McCord, shall we? Since that's what everybody's talking about anyway. Let's just start right with Kyle McCord. Yeah, I mean, as I said after the game, I'm not panicking. I thought, like everybody saw, he didn't have a good spring game. Okay, the stats weren't great. 18 of 34 for like 187 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. But he should have had a couple of interceptions. C.J. Hicks almost had one. I think there was at least another one that looked like it should have been picked off. So, by the way, C.J. Hicks had a phenomenal game overall. He did drop that interception, but at least he jumped the route and made it, I'll take that. Eventually he'll catch those, and those will be interceptions, maybe pick sixes for C.J. Hicks. But the point is, Kyle McCord's lucky he didn't have a couple of picks in the game. But I'm not panicking. I still think he's going to be a good starting quarterback this year. Will he be better than good? We'll see. Especially with the weapons he has around him and with Ryan Day. I still believe Ryan Day is going to be calling the plays. We'll see. As you guys know, if you listen to the show often, I say I'll believe it when I see it, when Ryan Day completely gives up play calling duties. Will Coach Hartline be heavily involved? Of course. Will Justin Fry be heavily involved? Of course. But I still think Ryan Day is going to be the primary play caller. We shall see. But, yeah, I still think Kyle McCord's going to be a good starter this year. Now, is Devin Brown completely out of the mix? No, absolutely not. This is not a serious injury. He wasn't able to play in the spring game, but he got the vast majority of spring under his belt, which is big. We always put a lot of emphasis on the spring game. Really, a lot of the other scrimmages in spring are just as important, if not more so, to the coaches and players. So especially when you add them all up together compared to just one, controlled scrimmage that is the spring game. I thought it was cool that Archie scored the touchdown. Now I can say I saw Archie Griffin score a touchdown in the horseshoe, as I said in our postgame podcast. But still, that's an example of they're not doing that scrimmages at practice. So it's a little different for the spring game. So is Devin Brown out of it? No, he's going to be back throwing soon, is what I've been told, and he's going to go through everything in summer. He's going to be ready when camp begins in late summer, in August, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, Coach Day has said himself there's not a large gap. There's a reason Kyle McCord, even before Devin Brown got hurt, was going first. And they were rotating with the first team, but it was McCord would always, if they had a scrimmage, McCord would always take the first snap. So you don't have to be Einstein to realize that meant he was a little ahead of Devin Brown in the pecking order. Coach Day never said that, kind of alluded to it once, but never said that McCord was even a little bit ahead. He never even put it in those words, but his actions, and he kind of like alluded to it one time, so to speak. But no, Devin Brown's not out of it. He can win this job in camp. Do I think he will? No, I think Kyle McCord's going to hold on to the job, but needs to play better than he did in that spring game. Needs to play better. All right, I want to talk about 3 young defensive players all entering their second year. I'm going to kind of bunch them all together, all these 3 young studs, young bucks. C.J. Hicks, Sonny Styles, and Kenyatta Jackson. Okay? Sonny Styles needs to start. We'll start with that. Sonny Styles just needs to start, period. I don't, not find a role for him off the bench, start and play a lot. Like, rarely leave the field. Okay, C.J. Hicks and Kenyatta Jackson. I'm not saying they have to start, but they have to play a lot. And I think they will. I I talked about this a lot on our post-game podcast, but, I'll repeat myself. I like Steele Chambers a lot, but, even last year he was rotating a little bit with Cody Simon. Steele ended up winning that job. And Steele's a fifth-year senior, is going to be better than he was as a fourth-year junior in theory. And he had a good year last year. Go back and watch. Played great against Georgia. But CJ Hicks is the real deal. Now entering your second year, if you're a five-star, it's not all about the stars, but, if you're a former five-star, you're not entering your second year and you look the part. I mean, now's the time. You're only going to get one more year of these kids after this year. So 2 more years total in theory with guys like CJ Hicks and Sonny Styles. CJ Hicks reminds me a lot of Jerome Baker. He might even end up being better than that. And Jerome Baker had a really good sophomore year and then, didn't have that great of a junior year, but I put a lot of that on coaching. And then was a 3rd round pick, and still in the NFL. So, I think that CJ Hicks will be at least that good, and that's good. That's very good. Remember how good Jerome Baker was as a sophomore? My point is, now's the time. These guys, I understand not playing a ton as a true freshman, although Sonny Styles played, especially against Georgia, played a lot as a true freshman. Kenyatta Jackson got on the field a little bit, but technically redshirted, I believe. I still think he has got 4 years of eligibility left. Yeah, at least he got his feet wet. But Kenyatta Jackson looks great. He's got to at least be, and Caden Curry looks good too, but we saw Caden Curry play a decent amount as a true freshman last year. He did not redshirt, but he enrolled early, whereas Jackson did not, and Jackson looks great coming off that edge. So, Jack Sawyer's going to be pushed by Kenyatta Jackson, in my opinion, and JT Tuimoloau. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be hard to keep off the field very much, although Larry Johnson likes to rotate, but I think Jack Sawyer is going to be in that rotation because Kenyatta Jackson needs to play. Again, I'm not going to go as far as to say he has to start, but I won't be mad if he starts, but he has to play a lot, and I think he will. Larry Johnson, that's one thing you don't have to worry about rotating, right? Anybody rotating is Larry Johnson will rotate, Will they rotate in the back 7? We shall find out. They didn't do that much last year, but again, I think CJ Hicks will play a decent amount, and I think Sonny Styles has to start. Those 3 young studs need to play. And play a lot. All right, right tackle. We still don't know if it's Tegra or Zen. Zen took the first team, went out there when the first team offense went out there, Zen went out there at right tackle. So that tells me clearly Zen, even if it's by this much, is a little bit ahead of Tegra leaving spring, but it's a very close battle. Those guys rotated almost evenly. Unlike center where Carson Hinsman almost took all the first team reps. They got Vic Cutler in there a little bit, but Carson Hinsman's the center. I think he's going to be a real good one at Ohio State. He'll have ups and downs as a redshirt freshman, as expected. Man, I wish Luke Whippler would have come back for another year. Nothing against Carson, because as you guys just heard me say, I think Carson Hinsman's going to be an excellent center here. But it'd be nice to have Whippler back for a fourth year junior. Did not see him leaving as a third-year sophomore. All the other centers that have come through here that have been really good have all stayed 4 years. You think of guys like going back to like Charles Bentley stayed for 4 years, and Nick Mangold stayed for 4 years, and Corey Lindsley was here for 5 years. Billy Price was here for 5 years. Pat Elflein was here for 5 years. So on and on and on. And then Luke Whippler, 3 years and out. But looks like he made the right choice, even though I was surprised by it. So you can't find a mock draft that doesn't have him going at least in the 3rd round. And I won't be surprised if he goes in the 2nd round, late 2nd. There's some 2nd round buzz if you read some mock drafts, but no later than 3rd. You can't see it. You can't find a mock draft that has him slipped into the 3rd day. So you go in the 3rd round, you made the right choice. It's not how it used to be where you have to go in the 1st round for it to be the right choice. I believe if you're at least a 2nd day pick and you believe you want to leave, then I don't think you made a mistake if you're a 2nd day pick, a 2nd round or a 3rd round pick, because that in itself is decent money. And then if you play well, you're 4 years away from your 2nd contract, and that's where you get rich in the NFL. Anyway, I digress. So I think Carson Hinsman's going to be solid as a starting center. Right tackle, we shall see between Zen and Tegra. But that begs the next question. Will the Buckeyes land an offensive tackle in the portal? My answer to you is yes, I think they will. I would bet whatever you think is a reasonable amount of money to you, or an amount of money that wouldn't break your bank but would mean something to you. I would bet that personally. I'm not saying you should do it. I don't think we can actually bet on whether Ohio State's going to land a tackle in the portal. Maybe you can. Maybe there's an offshore sports book that does that. That's not what Ohio has certain regulations, even though gambling is legal now, sports gambling, that they won't like put certain stuff up there. Like, will Ohio State land a right tackle in the portal? But seriously, I think they will. And here's the thing: I talked to my source yesterday, and who's been telling me the entire time that they will land a tackle. They're very confident that they will, and they have the NIL to back it. Now, I asked him, like, do you still feel that way? And his answer was 100%. So it's one source, but it's a source I trust profusely. And he's telling me 100%. I like that news. Didn't give me a name. I don't even know if he knows the name. And they're not just targeting one player, to be clear. But the point is, Ohio State, according to my sources, is very confident that they're going to land a tackle in the portal. So that could be your starting right tackle right there. So there you go. I am putting my money on the Buckeyes landing an offensive tackle. All right. Speaking of, I really consider portal recruiting. Speaking of recruiting, Buckeyes landed 2 commits on Saturday. Put a little icing on the cake for the spring game. Huge recruiting day it was, even though they got the 2 commits, which I'm going to talk about. I mean, it was a spectacle there. It was perfect. You had so many big-time recruits there, and it couldn't have been a nicer day weather-wise. Huge crowd there. Former players like Paris Johnson Jr. there helping recruit. Paris Johnson Jr. and Marvin Harrison Jr. Getting honored during the game, during a timeout for being All-Americans, and the fact that they're going to get a Buckeye tree in their honor. Hopefully Marvel will stay healthy this year, because if he does, he's a lock to get 2 Buckeye trees. Is that how it works, or you just get 1 Buckeye tree and they make it off the guy? It's been a while since I walked through Buckeye Grove. I should know these things. But like, does Mike Doss have 3 trees? They probably just give you one tree, and they just put on your plaque that, by the way, this guy was even more of a badass than some of these other guys. Okay. But I really love the way this class is shaping up. The Buckeyes landed tight end Max LeBlanc from Chattanooga, 4-star tight end. Picked them over Michigan, among others. What's funny as heck, just to go off on, just real quick, I've got a good friend from high school whose last name is LeBlanc, who's actually a huge Michigan fan. This cracks me up. He's a huge Michigan fan. He actually played tight end in high school for the high school that I went to. His last name's LeBlanc. Huge Michigan fan, and the Buckeyes landed a LeBlanc over his Wolverines. I love it. And yes, I did text him and was trolling him. I hope you're listening, Adrian. So they landed Max LeBlanc, 4-star. Like that. Jelani Thurman is going to be a stud here. I don't think he's going to play a ton this year because you got Cade Stover back. I think Joe Royer is going to be in the number 2, and G. Scott's going to be involved. But I think they're going to I don't think Jelani Thurman's going to redshirt, but I do think by next year, Jelani Thurman's going to be playing a ton. So Max LeBlanc's not a guy that's going to come in here and need to play as a true freshman by any means, but I like getting Max LeBlanc in this class, not just so I can make fun of my friend LeBlanc about Michigan losing out on him and the Buckeyes now having a LeBlanc on the good guy's side. All right, and they also landed running back, and we all knew this was coming, I think. Running back Sam Williams-Dixon, the young man that transferred to Pick North, which I can't wait to see him against D1 competition. I bet you he's going to do really well. 3-star, but I have no doubt his ranking is going to go up. Look at his offer list. Penn State wanted him. Tennessee wanted him. Many others. I'm not saying everybody in the country wanted him. I'm not saying Georgia and Alabama wanted him, but Penn State wanted him. Tennessee wanted him. This is not your typical 3-star that's ranked like in the 600s. This is just because he played at a very small school. Look for Sam Williams-Dixon's ranking to go up. Ohio State already has James Peoples in the class at running back. Those are 2 good running backs right there. We'll see if they add a third, a bruiser, because both those kids are, speed guys. Although I think Peoples can get up to, can be like a Dobbins type, maybe even be a little bigger than that. He's taller than Dobbins, but Dobbins was pretty rocked up, though, even though he's short. But Dobbins is rocked up. But I love James Peoples, who committed to the Buckeyes weeks ago. But I like Sam Williams-Dixon, too, and I can't wait to see him at Pick North this year, see how he does. I think he's going to do well. So Ohio State has now 12 commits in this class, the 2024 class, number 2 class in the country. Nice player rating, too, 93.3 of the guys of the teams in the top 7. Ohio State has not just the second best class, second highest rated class, but they have the second highest average player rating, which I always think is super important. You look at the average player rating. Georgia, right there, they also have 12 commits. Georgia has the number one class. They have a player rating just ahead of the Buckeyes at 94. So Ohio State 93.3, Georgia is at 94, their average player rating. And then Michigan has the number 3 class. They also have 12 commits. It's funny, like I think the top 5 classes all have 12 commits right now. Michigan has 12 commits. They have the number 3 class, but their average player rating is 91.3. So their average player rating is 2 percentage points lower than Ohio State. So same amount of commitments. Michigan putting it together a good class, but Ohio State putting together what could be an excellent class. I like the again, the average player rating being 93.3 is fantastic. And that's despite the fact that it actually got lowered because Sam Williams-Dixon is now the lowest rated player in the class because he's rated in the 600s, like I said, overall. Look for that to go up. So they've got a 93.3 rating, and it went down after getting these 2 commits. So the overall points of the class went up. So that even if you get a 3-star, it does help your overall rating. It's all an algorithm. I'm not going to get too far into the weeds because I was never good at calculus anyway. Okay. That's why I'm a sports writer and podcaster and radio and all that. Okay. I think this is, including Coach Hartline, looks like Buckeyes escaped spring without any major injuries. Did guys get banged up? Yes. Jahad Carter got banged up, but he's going to be back. Guys got banged up. Steel Chambers got banged up. Minor, he'll be back soon. Devin Brown, minor, he'll be back soon. There wasn't a Mitchell Melton. I hope nothing's escaping my memory here because when you got 105 guys on the team, but I don't think there was. I don't think that anything happened. We were out there. We saw what happened with Jahad Carter. That looked like it could have been serious. He was grasping his right knee. It might have been one of those like non-contact, but I think he was probably it scared him. So it came back out. There's no way he would have came back out in full uniform like half hour later if it was serious. I've seen that too many times at practice. If it was serious, he would have stayed in there and they would have – there's no way he would have come back out. He's not even wearing a knee brace. He's over there running around. So it's not serious with Jahad Carter. I don't think there was any serious injuries at all, so that's great. Last year, Mitchell Melton was in the plans and tore his ACL late in the spring game. So it's too bad we didn't get a chance to see Devin Brown, but it's good that that's not a serious injury. No comparisons to Joe Burrow, the Joe Burrow situation. First of all, Joe Burrow and Dwayne Haskins were battling for the backup job that year behind JT Barrett, not the starting job. And it happened in camp, and it was a more serious injury. So Devin Brown's happened in spring, not a serious injury. He's battling for the starting job, and he'll be back. So, yeah, the Burrow, we wonder what would have happened with Joe Burrow if he never broke his hand. Would fate have been different? Would he have won the Heisman at Ohio State? Would Dwayne Haskins have transferred? Who knows? The good news is that Ohio State escaped without any major injuries this spring, and the good news is Joe Burrow is a Cincinnati Bengal. At least in my opinion, it's good news. If you're a fan of another AFC North team, it's very bad news for you. All right, just a few more parting thoughts. Listen, I was out there at a lot of practices this year, as was the rest of the beat writers, the many that we have on the beat that continues to grow. We have the largest beat in American sports. I'm not joking. We seriously do. American sports, pro or college, New York Yankees, anybody, name it. I mean, it's ridiculous. We'll have NFL reporters come to a Ryan Day press conference who've never been there. They're like, damn, there's like 4 times as many people here as like whatever team I cover, their head coach when he does a press conference. We're like, yep, Buckeye Nation is insane, and we love it. So, all right, so Chip, I was out there, and I thought Chip looked good all spring at running back, and I'm like, well, it's spring, maybe, I'm not seeing everything. I don't want to talk him up too much, but I did report, like I did my practice reports. He was in all of them. And what did we see in the spring game? We saw a guy that's 230 pounds that can run really, really well. You've heard me say this before, but, last year when the linebackers were asked by Doug Lamarice from Cleveland.com, who's the fastest linebacker? They all said Chip. Who's the strongest linebacker? They all said Chip. And now we're seeing it at running back with Chip. And I don't know what the pecking order is going to look like. If I had to guess, if Travion Henderson's healthy, he'll trot out there and be the starter when they begin the Indiana game. But Chip looks good to me at 230 pounds. He runs, not just his speed, again, his toughness, his strength. Again, fastest and strongest of the linebackers when he was with the linebackers. Pretty good combination. He's tough to tackle, and he's fast. Pretty good combination. I think we forget because of injuries to Travion and Mayan and Evan Pryor going into the season. But I think we tend to forget Chip started the Michigan game. Had a couple of good runs early too. Not crazy good runs, but anyway, my point is Chip looks good to me, and I think he's going to at least be in the plans this year. I don't know how much he's going to play, but he looks good to me. He looks like he could be like a weapon. Not a guy you get out there because, he's put his dues in, he's okay. Like, no, he looks like he could be a weapon. I'm not saying he's going to start, but I'm saying, like, if he needed to start, I wouldn't be worried about it at all. And I love the depth. I love that Travion Henderson is now cleared and he's going to be healthy. I love that Mayan Williams is going to enter this season healthy because he was good last year when healthy. Everybody kind of focuses on the end of the year when Mayan was out there he had so many things that was banged up. I think he had like a broken finger, knee was banged up. He was so banged up. He just wasn't the same back late in the season, but he was good when he was healthy. So if Mayan's healthy, Travion's healthy, Dallin Hayden's now a year older. Evan Pryor's going to be cleared for camp. There's no doubt about that. He was out there in full uniform during warm-ups, cutting, running, catching passes, looked good. No knee brace on, which is a good sign. So Chip, to me, looks good. I thought that was an underrated story of spring was Chip training him. All right. What was not an underrated part of spring was Carnell Tate. We talked about him all spring. Didn't do much in the spring game till the fourth quarter, and then he showed out, had the touchdown, had a few other catches. Did have a drop, but everybody's going to have a drop. This kid is the real deal. Is he going to play a lot this year? No. As I've said before, I'll use the Marvin Harrison Jr. example again. Even Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't play a lot as a true freshman. Hardly played until the Rose Bowl. And then the only reason he had his coming out party in the Rose Bowl is because, well, A, because he's awesome, and B, because Olave and Garrett Wilson sat out the game, or he never even would have had that opportunity. So, and Marvin Harrison Jr. was ready to go as a true freshman, as evidenced by that Rose Bowl. And we saw it that spring. You can tell even as a true freshman, Marvin Harrison Jr. was ready to go, but he had so many good guys ahead of him. Hartline didn't want to pull those guys off the field for a true freshman. So Hartline's not going to pull Marvin Harrison Jr. off the field this year for Carnell Tate, for example, or Emeka Egbuka. So I think Carnell Tate will play. He won't redshirt, but he's not going to play a lot. But I love what I saw out of Carnell Tate this spring. I'm not just going to focus on the spring game. He had a fantastic spring, and we talked a lot about it. We probably didn't talk enough about Noah Rogers. He wasn't putting on a show out there like Tate was when we were out there at the WAC during open practices, but he was good, and he had a hell of a touchdown catch in the spring game. Ball wasn't even thrown well by Gebbia. He went down and got it and then broke about 4 tackles. Noah Rogers is going to be a good one. He's another one. I don't think they're going to redshirt him. He won't play a lot. Again, I don't need to explain why I just did, but he's going to be a good one, and he'll at least play this year, not redshirt, in my opinion. One more wide receiver I want to talk about, Caleb Brown. Caleb Brown, again, might not play a lot, probably won't unless there's injuries. Injuries would change everything. I'm saying guys won't play a lot. If there's injuries, they would. But if guys stay healthy, there's the backup wide receivers. It's going to be tough sledding to get a lot of playing time, especially you got Julian Fleming coming back, Jaden Ballard. So it's going to be tough. But I think Caleb Brown, I heard he was going to be the number one kickoff returner, and he was out there returning. He was the first guy out there returning kicks. So that was telling. He was also the first guy out there returning punts. But I'm hearing Emeka is going to be the punt returner. So look for Caleb Brown to be heavily involved in special teams, be the primary kick returner this year, be a backup slot receiver, and a guy in the future I think can be a really good slot receiver and will play a lot in the future, not this year necessarily. So Caleb Brown, I think, is the guy that leaves spring with a lot of momentum. So it's another receiver I wanted to mention. All right, I didn't even mean to go this long. I almost went 25 minutes. Flew by. There's a lot to talk about. Appreciate you guys riding with me. I am Dave Biddle. Again, I thank you guys a lot. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.